introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Bodhi's dad, Aaron, and I've been doing movement-related stuff my entire life, professionally. And we're here to talk about recovery, which is probably...
Half the battle.
Yeah.
It's half the battle. It's equally as important to training and is not treated as such by anyone except professional athletes, pretty much.
Right. And there's like 5 main categories of recovery we're going to talk about. Number
Maybe
1 being
4.
sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
We'll figure it out as we go. Number 1 is sleep, yeah?
Yes, sleep is probably the most important. Let's just go through all of them right now.
Sure.
Sleep, nutrition and supplementation, restorative movement practices, and then general stress reduction.
Yep.
Which is kind of like just broken down into like the milieu of your entire life, all the things you do on a daily basis,
Lifestyle habits, yeah.
breath,
Just beholding beauty, right? Looking at things that are pleasant.
Spending time in nature, all that. And but
there's also
we'll talk about each of the individual pillars.
And then we'll talk about maybe heat and cold exposure as a thing that can be stressful or stress reducing depending on how we use them.
Yeah.
All right, so sleep. What are the main ways we want to improve our quality of sleep?
Yeah, so I think it's good that you mentioned quality of sleep because people tend to equate sleep duration with sleep quality, and that's not the case.
Right.
You can have a very long sleep and have it be very poor quality, and you can have a very short sleep and have it be very high quality.
Right. Arnold Schwarzenegger has this like super funny
Sleep
quote.
faster.
Yeah, exactly. If you need more than 7 hours of sleep, sleep faster. Which is essentially like get more quality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe not the greatest advice.
No, it's pointing at that quality thing.
It is, yeah. It's so a resource for this that I'll link is Huberman Lab has a sleep toolkit. And that's like, I mean, it's just so easy. It's just got like 9 to 10 steps of like actionable tools you can do every day. Some of them are supplementation. The supplementation part's like 5-10%. Really, the main things are like going to be morning sunlight, delaying caffeine intake, no phone before going to bed, no eating before going to bed.
As much darkness as you can.
Darkness independent of light is useful. So what I do at night is I'll actually light a candle instead of turning on the lights in the house.
Reducing the amount of blue light that you get is huge. So just to kind of clarify, we can link the Huberman thing.
Yeah.
But just a quick note is like, as soon as you get up, get some early morning sunlight that kind of sets your circadian rhythms. When it's dark, try to stay in the dark as much as possible.
And like, again, we will link like the specifics, but really just like emphasizing that sleep is a priority. Like sleep is so potent in terms of like improving your recovery. If you get a bad night's sleep, everyone knows you feel like shit on a bad night's sleep. And when you're really well rested, you feel awesome.
Right.
And like in terms of boosting performance over time, in terms of recovering, and getting training in, sleeping is like one of the best things you can do. Just like really, like, I mean, obviously you can think so much about your sleep that you become stressed about your sleep, and that's like, don't get into that. But like, pay attention to your sleep quality. Try and put some effort into sleeping better. And that is probably tool number 1.
So we got sleep, we have nutrition and supplementation.
Yeah, that's probably number 2 in terms of importance. Not to say that the others are not important, but like sleep and nutrition are really very high up there in terms of like, if you do the others and you don't pay attention to your sleep, you're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Yeah, what are some of the the guidelines for nutrition, for recovery?
So for nutrition, I really like to prioritize whole food sources. And that is under the guise of maintaining a healthy like macronutrient intake and sufficient micronutrient intake on top of that. So this can go into the line of supplementation. I take a multivitamin every day. It's just so easy. It really like it's free. It's free. You will reduce your chance of having deficiencies by so much by taking this less than 50-cent a day pill. Along with having whole food sources. So instead of having pizza, you have oats. I'm not saying pizza's bad or pizza's good, but I'm saying that like having whole food sources of like a single grain or a single fruit or like a single piece of protein rather than this amalgamation of like pea protein and soy protein and like having single ingredient. Yeah.
Okay.
Single ingredient sources.
And what about timing? So like, having a meal right after training can generally aid in recovery, or even having like a mini meal, a post-workout meal followed by a larger meal.
That's a great point. So I think in general you want to be shooting for like an average of like 2 to 3, maybe like anywhere from 2 to like 5 full meals a day. Eating full meals. The jury's out on snacking. I prefer to like if I'm gonna have a snack, I'm gonna have a snack before a workout. Having some carbohydrates before you exercise has been shown to boost performance just because you have higher blood glucose, and that's gonna increase your time to exhaustion. It's gonna decrease the time to complete a task because you're not having to use muscle and liver glycogen.
Right.
And yeah, so having some sufficient carbohydrates is very beneficial. And then post workout, there's not really a real anabolic window. You're not gonna like start to eat your own muscles if you don't have protein immediately after a workout. But ideally, you want to eat like within the hour following the workout.
Replenish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a big meal. It's when we're training hard, you want to be eating hard. It's really easy, especially as climbers, to get into a caloric deficit consistently. And that's
chronic caloric deficit versus like
an
acute and occasional.
I mean that's fine. I mean like gaining weight, losing weight, bulking, cutting is really, I think in my opinion, can be done healthily, like without really damaging physiology at all. But if you're chronically like in a deficit, you start to see real issues.
Cool. So eating enough, that's big.
Eating enough, eating good whole foods, like again, like organic, not organic is like that. It's 5-10% versus like organic pizza versus like non-organic white rice and chicken. I'd probably go with the white rice and chicken that's not organic because that's just real whole foods. Not to demonize pizza. I'm going for pizza. It could be anything.
Right.
I eat pizza all the time.
Yeah. But I think there's also something about following your intuition to a certain extent. Just like, hey, this feels like it's going to nourish me. This is what I want. Instead of second guessing yourself, it's sometimes really good to just like tap into like, yes, I worked hard. This is what I want.
It's definitely really easy to, especially I've ran into this, like having so much like information in my head about nutrition, like really like being like, fuck, I'm so hungry. I don't even know what to eat though. I'm just looking at my fridge. I don't know what to decide to eat.
What's the right choice?
Yeah, that's too far gone. Far gone. Eat something. Eat what feels good for you. Everyone's got that one food that was like, that's traditionally unhealthy, but I feel awesome when I eat that.
Exactly. For me, that's ice cream. Like ice cream is like my superfood. Helps me recover so well.
Yeah.
Cool. So we covered some nutritional fundamentals.
Yeah.
I really think not stressing about your food and really developing a relationship to like what is good for me, meaning
Yeah.
what do I need, is
Yeah, I think also the last piece in there is really just like consciousness about it.
Mhm.
Like food that you choose to eat versus food that you eat impulsively is
Yeah.
gonna have a different effect on your body.
Absolutely.
If you just like fuck it,
right.
that's gonna be a very different choice than like, this will be good for me. I'm gonna eat this. Or even this might be bad for me, but I'm gonna choose to eat it anyway.
Right, and enjoy it.
And enjoy it. Yeah,
Right.
it's like really
Yeah.
like don't lose the joy in food. Food is awesome. I bake like every fucking day. Like,
That's it, too.
like yeah, cookies are my superfood. I eat cookies.
Yeah, but so this kind of goes into some of the lifestyle stuff, stress
Mhm.
reduction stuff. So you can eat in a way that's stressful, like Jasper, your
Mhm.
brother, right? Dude just shovels stuff in his face, it stresses everyone out. You can also eat in a way where you're taking breaths between your bites. You're calming yourself down. So like, let's maybe start talking about some like stress reduction.
Yeah, some just general stress reduction. Yeah.
It kind of dovetails onto the conscious eating thing. Like taking a moment to be thankful for your
Mhm.
food helps you get more out of your food and reduces your stress.
Yeah, this is almost like an axiom of the program in general. It's not what you do; it's how you do it.
Right.
And
a big tool for doing things well anywhere is breath.
Yes.
Like while you're training, when you're not training, whenever you feel stress rise in your system,
just a sigh.
Super helpful.
It's so natural. You do it without even thinking about it.
So
the natural sigh.
Yep. And the complement of the sigh is the yawn.
Mm-hmm.
So yawning and sighing are good pairs, right? So a yawn, often considered rude, right? It's actually just one way to bring more oxygen to your body. And a sigh is a way to release.
Yeah.
So
it's relaxing.
Yawning and sighing as much as possible.
And
really good.
So we're kind of describing relaxing, right? Relaxing behavior is not necessarily sitting and doing nothing and going on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually stimulating behavior. Like watching really cool shit happen on a screen is exciting. It's stimulating. Stimulation is stress. When you go and train, that is stimulation. When you jump in a cold water, that's stimulation. That's stressful.
Right.
Technically.
Versus like going to the ocean and watching the waves, sitting by a river and watching the river, or looking up at the sky. You could spend the same amount of time sitting, watching a screen, or watching nature, and they're going to have different effects on your system.
But just to make the point that like, you want to spend time doing activities that are relaxing. You want to be relaxed.
Yep.
And making distinction between relaxing and doing nothing, and like and like doing nothing really, like actually just like it's not even really doing nothing, but like just making the distinction between that and scrolling on your phone, being on the screen.
The fact that you're not moving doesn't mean you're not doing anything, right? You can stimulate yourself. You can be understimulated physically and overstimulated on a kind of endocrinological level because of stuff you're exposing yourself to. So breath.
Yeah, breath. There's this is also very potent. I just want to mention that this is very potent right after your workout. Like just relaxing immediately following a training session is really, really beneficial and has been shown to boost recovery like significantly.
So, I come from a yoga background. After every yoga session, we do a moment in Shavasana, right? Which is lying on our back and doing what they call these days non-sleep deep rest. Basically going through the body part by part and releasing it. And it's a huge tool, I think, to kind of aid recovery.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. That's it's funny that like some lab like in like California probably came up with that exact same protocol that people have been doing
forever,
for thousands of years,
right?
but then like called it something novel because it's science.
Right. Instead of calling it yoga nidra, which means the yogic
It's-
sleep.
It's now down regulation breathing.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's important
It
to
works.
like really try and bring your level of arousal down
Yeah.
after you do a workout. So that's I like to listen to slow music and either do box breathing, so that's like
Good. So basically, the inhale is the same length as the pause, same length as the exhale, same length as the holding the breath out.
and I'll do that for like ideally 10 minutes after a workout. If I don't have that time, I'll do it for 5.
But I mean, it's something you can even do, like they don't recommend it, but you can do it while you're driving.
Yeah,
Out of like.
totally. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
just
do
do it.
that in the car as I'm leaving the gym all the time.
Right.
But yeah,
Box breathing, the other breath ratio that's really, really useful is having your exhale be about twice as long as the inhale. So in for 4, for example, out for 8 or longer.
yeah.
That can also be really, really good for down regulating and recovery.
And it's these tools aren't useful in isolation. Like they're not useful in a vacuum. If you're not really feeling like, oh, this is relaxing my body, I'm breathing out the tension, you're not gonna have as much of a benefit as if you just really like.
Yeah, they're not magic.
They're not.
You have to
exactly.
tune into like the effect it's having, and you also have to intend an effect.
Yeah, and just doing that sporadically throughout your day. Work is stressful. School is stressful. Like stress is stress. If you're having a hard day at work, if you're having a hard week at school, that's going to impact your overall recovery. And this is a potent tool in like recovery from a stress that you induce by exercising, and also a stress that is like thrown upon you by life.
Sure.
Just don't, like not separating those. Those are the same thing, and you have to treat them as such.
Right.
Like you have to recover from life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another useful tool, or another one of the pillars, is nourishing movement or recovery movement. Soft, gentle movements.
Totally.
Movements that bring about circulation, movements that don't necessarily stress the body. So forms of yoga are good for this. Like my favorite thing to do is actually just lay on a floor and roll around, swing my limbs, self-massage, taking walks,
Totally.
Going for a swim, right? You're not doing it for exercise, you're doing it for the pleasure of actually moving. It actually feels like it helps distribute stress.
And it does.
Yeah.
It does like reduce overall inflammation. If you inflammation. Yeah, it does reduce overall inflammation with light movement. And yeah, there's some videos. I have 2 morning practice videos. One of them is more qigong based, and one of them is just like sliding, slapping, swinging, kind of just like
my environment things.
he came up with those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's restorative movement is big on recovery, and again, it doesn't just work. It's not magic. You have to like attend to your body.
Sure.
I think a big theme here is like it's not gonna do the work for you. You need to pay attention to recovery.
Right.
Like
Well, there's something about the activity you're doing, the intention you're doing it with, and the result you want kind of coming together into one thing. That's where it's really potent. The activity itself will probably do something, but not as much as if you have an intention, and not as much as you have an intention and like a result you're trying to enact. And then the last thing we need to talk about is basically cold and heat exposure, which can be great tools for recovery. They can also be horrendous stressors.
Yeah. So heat and cold are interesting. Heat is less complicated in that it's generally just it's generally gonna bring your like overall allostatic load. That's just the like kind of your baseline level of stress that you're carrying
Sure.
at any given moment. It's generally just gonna bring it down pretty. There'll be some peak and it'll bring it down.
Yep.
And it won't feel incredibly stressful. Cold exposure is different in that it's going to feel like shit. You hate it sucks. Getting in cold water sucks.
Right.
Taking a cold shower in the morning is awful.
Right.
And
But it can reduce some inflammation.
It can reduce inflammation, but it's also this is one of the complicated ones because the difference between a cold shower and a full body cold immersion is very different on inflammation. So it's gonna have a similar effect on your catecholamine system. That's dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and your cortisol system. So you're gonna have a peak in cortisol, a peak in the catecholamines, just less severely when it comes to a cold shower. But when it comes to cold exposure, you're gonna have a big peak in all that, and your muscular inflammation in your tissue is gonna go down. In a cold shower, you don't get that as much. So a cold shower is totally fine to do after exercise. And the reason a cold plunge is not is because you'll actually blunt the inflammatory response.
Sure.
If that's what you're shooting to do during a performance phase, for example, so you've got a competition and then another one very soon afterwards, taking a cold plunge is a great idea. You're gonna really reduce your soreness. Yeah.
But for this program, right, which is a strength building program,
Yes.
you actually want to avoid cold plunging right after you train.
Yeah. Well,
So you
I
can
mean,
actually
it's like
adapt a little bit more.
yeah, for like during a performance phase, you'd want to possibly consider doing a cold plunge directly after exercise or directly after a competition.
Yep.
But usually we'd want to avoid that during a strength and power phase because we're actually leaning into fatigue.
Right.
We're leaning into that adaptation.
And for that, like if we talk about heat, we have saunas. That's one good source. We have warm showers. That's another good source. Taking a bath or going into a hot tub. All these things have naturally built-in kind of tolerance levels. Like you're in a sauna for a while and you're like, hey, I don't want to be in here anymore. That's great. That's time to get out. Same thing with a hot tub. It's like you soak in there for a few minutes and you're like, I need to sit on the ledge right now. So that's one simple way to listen to when it's becoming stressful and coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Cool. So I think we covered it all.
I think we covered it all, and I think it just like if you're still here, great. This is quite long, but just a recap: sleep is king. Pay attention to your sleep. Really try and do all the things in the sleep toolkit to the best of your ability.
Eat plenty, eat well, eat good stuff. Take long breaths.
Don't let life stress you out. Reduce your stress.
Well, life will stress you out. Find ways to reduce it.
Yeah. Or don't let life keep you stressed.
That's right. Life will stress you. Don't get stressed about life stressing you. Just learn how to relax. Do movements that feel gentle, good, nourishing.
Restorative movement is awesome. Feels great. It'll get you in your body. It'll get you more present, which will in turn also lead to better performance. Something we didn't really talk about very much is how stress impacts your level of cognitive awareness and performance, and that's like doesn't make much of a difference in a very low skill activity like weightlifting or something, but like when you're climbing, you have to be totally focused and present if you want to perform. And if you're super stressed, that's going to start to deteriorate. So like that, the same tools that help your breath or help slow down your breath and relax are going to be the same tools that like help you perform when you climb.
Well, there's a superpower that you see in some high-level climbers, high-level fighters, high-level athletes, which is like when they're in a situation that most people would be freaking out in, they're actually calmer, right? And it's that superpower to actually be able to drop into this very calm state that I think gives them the capacity to make decisions that no one else would make, or not make bad decisions.
Yeah.
So it's something we can actually train as well.
And lastly, I know we just covered this, but heat and cold. Heat is great pretty much all the time. Cold is great pretty much all the time. Don't get stressed about cold. And if you're gonna do a cold plunge, don't do it after your workout.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Good job.
Nice job. Thank you.